Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are. Yes, super excited to be here this evening. It is this week's edition of C Suite Speaks. C Suite Speaks, C Suite Spills. Interesting. C Suite Spills. Maybe that's another show we should have. I don't know. C Suite Spills. So that Yes, C-suite spills. We can learn their secrets. But it's C-suite speaks, C-suite secrets, you know, that time when we come together to just understand what people, that have gone ahead, so to say, leaders in areas, people who have gone ahead, what they've done to get to where they are today, right? So I'm super excited about this evening. Almost like I would say, like I'm always excited, but I think there's excitement and then there's gratitude. I think every time we get to come here and speak to people, I have those two in my heart or my feelings. I'm not sure how else to say it. But the point is I'm always grateful and excited that okay, we get to be able to come on here and have this conversation and learn from those who have gone ahead of us. I think that's just so powerful, right? There's something so powerful about being able to see possibilities, that somebody has done something has happened for them, and like I say to myself, they have one head. So if they could have achieved this, if they've gotten this far, then I can too, right? And that's the beautiful thing about what we do with C Suite Speaks. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining. Let us know where you're joining from. Now, anytime that salary week is near, I always ask, salary week is here. How far budgeting? How did you do for this we're in the month of May? So how did you do with April salary? Were you wise with April salary? Did you spend anyhow? Let's talk about how you used April salary before we bring our guests. Did you use April salary with wisdom, or did you use it anyhow? How did you use April salary? Have you been intentional about April salary? Please, let's have this discussion. Let me know. I hope that you were wise with salary and you used it well. I hope so. I hope so. So I'm going to invite our guests soon. Again, every salary presents an opportunity for you to rewrite any mistakes, so to say, an opportunity for you to pick yourself up and begin to practice what you should do with salary. So every salary provides that opportunity. So if you didn't do well with April salary into May, it's another opportunity for you to do better. And you have to give yourself a why. Like, why does it matter? And it matters for many reasons, but one that just comes to mind very easily is regret does not do refunds. Regret does not do refunds. I say this over and over again. Regret does not do refunds. So because regret does not do refunds, and I've met many people who have worked for years, decades in some instances, and they just have the fact that they've worked to show for it, i.e., the salary they've earned has just been about continue to earn the salary alone. There's nothing that they have to show for it that says, yes, I've been able to produce something with this salary. So, really, it's important that you're intentional with salary. For many reasons, again, salary is not something that you have power over. If you get what I mean, that's something that you can decide, I will decide how long this is going to keep coming now. It's not, right? It's something that you have to, you don't know how long, but if you are wise, you're able to begin to deal with it properly and use it as a seed. Use it as a literally a seed for your future. I say today's income is tomorrow's insurance. So being intentional about that, right? I think that's so 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 critical. Yes, so today we're speaking to a veteran in the insurance industry. If you are in the insurance industry or you know someone who is, do well to, send this to them, let them join. And you know that C-Suite Speaks always bring value. So please, let's do well, let's do well, let's do well to send to others. Put C-Suite Speaks on your LinkedIn page, repost, put it up on your Instagram stories, WhatsApp status, and let people come in so that we can learn together. I am excited about what we're going to learn today. As you know, with C Suite Speaks, I do this to help, who I would call younger ones to learn from older people's experience. But every time and time again, I usually end up being the chief learner. Is anything like that? I usually end up being the one who benefits really a lot from C Suite Speaks. I get to learn a lot from the people who come, and I'm able to, just leverage their journey. So we are here, we are live. Please repost, join us, and let's make C Suite Speaks interesting today. Our guest is here. So we are bringing up our guest. Our guest is here. Woo!
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, this journey has been a long time coming. So we are here today. We are here today. We are. Let me do like my sister that is always forming song on the fly. Just mommy say a song I formed, and then she starts like, oh, okay, interesting. Welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank
saying yes
you.
to do this. Thank you so much. Super excited to have you here. How are you? How has your day been?
I'm good. I'm good. The day was good. Busy, but busy is good. So let's
Yes,
see.
so thank
Does
you.
everybody have a cold? I have a cold as well.
The weather has been interesting. Well, yeah, we thank God. Thank God. Awesome. So happy to have you here. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for saying yes to doing this with us. So I like to start with, like providing a background again for anyone who is watching us for the first time, just to have a sense of why we're here and what we're doing. So C-suite speaks is that opportunity for us to learn from leaders in the C-suite. As simple as the name is. The whole idea is for you to share your story, right? Where you're coming from, just it's almost the way I like to say it for my guests is looking back and saying, how would you advise younger you? What would you tell younger you about your journey, right?
All those interview questions that I don't like to answer. Yeah.
It's that they say hindsight is 2020, I believe. So
Mm,
that's looking back, just so that anyone watching can learn from your experience, and just see and inspire people. I find that we need more stories of African leaders who have grown, made substance out of their career journeys to share, just so that people know what is possible for them, right? And these people are not fall from the tree. They are human beings like you, and if where they are today looks like where you want to be, then just take a step back into their past and then follow that journey, to get there. So that's why we do see Sweet Speak. So it's that time for you to share your story and share your journey with us, happy employee community. So thank you again.
thank you.
Okay, so welcome, and I'd like to start with an introduction, very brief. I prefer actually my guests to introduce themselves so that you can share the parts, and then we can ask questions from what you share so that you're owning the story you want to share. For everyone watching, welcome. We have Bayomi Oluremi Judah. He is an insurance industry executive with decades of experience, right? And he's someone that I've admired his journey. When I look at, I remember looking at the name and saying, I think I've seen this name somewhere, and then going to check. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember we did some work somewhere, and oh, yes, and for me it's beautiful to see when people have stayed the course and have built a respectable career, a career that people can look at and say, yes, this person has done something great with their lives. So welcome, and over to you. So I'd like to introduce yourself just so that you can share with us what you would like to share, and then I would just ask you questions based on what you share.
Okay. Um, where do I start? Well, you said my name. Abayemi Oluremi Judah. Um, by profession, I'm an actuary. So I've been in the insurance. I've always worked in insurance. So I started around the year 2000. So started in the UK, worked across pretty much all spheres of insurance, from pensions to life to general, um, reinsurance, direct office. I mean, for those who know about insurance, rating agencies, rating insurance companies. So the the full spectrum. In terms of career journey, I mean, as I said, I've always been an actuary. Interesting. I started off as we all do, leaving university, wanting to be an investment banker, and I think that was the exciting, cutting edge career at that time. So everyone applied for investment banking. But I think even from before I went to uni, I always wanted to be an actuary. So I found my way back to what I would say is my first love. Um, to be an actuary, you have to do about years and years and years of exams. So I always like to say, become a professional at even failing exams. So it teaches you grit. So you will fail some exams, but you just have to see it through. So that for me was the first journey. I mean, just learning to persevere and just to be focused, having a clear sight of where you want to go, and also along the way having people who encourage you. Because there were times where when I just stopped the exams and I said, you know what, I don't want to be an actuary. I want to go and do something else. Went off to a rating agency. And sometimes God closes one door and you find yourself in an environment and then you realize, no, I do want to be an actuary, but just not the sort of actuary I was before. So you get a bit more clarity into the sort of journey that you want. So I always knew I wanted to be an actuary, technically focused, but also understanding the business of what I do.
Mm.
So closer also to the front office, even while understanding the engine. So I spent about 21 years in the UK, 14 years working. Then for me, it was just time to come back home. I'd finished my exams. I knew that if I didn't come home at that time, it would get harder. And thank God again, I came back home. That's where for me mentors are then important as well. Came back to Continental Re, met people like Dr. Femi Oyetunji, Lawrence Desare. I mean, really strong industry professionals who'd done it for years and decades, who'd transformed organizations and just learned. And it's important to just be able to submit yourself and just to learn and
Mm.
learn and learn and soak things in and have the mind and an attitude of executing, just getting things done. And I always like to think that my job is just to make my boss's life easier. So if I'm there, he shouldn't have to worry. I mean, that's my mindset. So so just worked there for 7 years, and then even within the Nigerian insurance industry, worked in quite a few places, met some very, very strong executives, even where I am now in in custodian, working with one of our pioneer insurers in Mr. Wale Oshin. I mean, very, very impressive individual. So for me, it's always an honor when you can work with people, learn from them. And I think again, another quality, apart from being technically excellent, apart from understanding the business, I always pride loyalty. So for me, that's
Mm.
very, very important. It's good to be dedicated to something, focused on pushing, even if what people call someone else's business, but you take ownership and making sure wherever you are is better than where you left it. So, and
Mm.
then the people that you work with. For me, you're nothing without your people, without your team. So, um, I'm always employee centric. So there, you must be able to create that environment. So yeah, and then from a personal point of view, married to a beautiful wife. We have two boys, so it's yeah. So that's a bit of my journey.
Okay. I like it. Thank you for sharing so far, right? And I've picked a couple of things that you shared, so I'm going to ask questions from there. To begin
Okay.
with, you said you wanted to be an actuary, or I mean, you had known you wanted to be an actuary,
Yeah.
right? Why? What
Okay.
what inspired
I
this? Why?
After A levels, I took a year off and I did what they called at that time in the UK a year in industry, where you go off and
Mm.
work. It was AEA Technology for like a technical organization, and it was in a place in the UK called it was in Abingdon. Now the
Mm.
Institute of Actuaries is in Oxford, so I think they came. They were handing out flyers to where I was working, and it just seemed As Christians, we read narrow road, wide road. I always like to do things that challenge me. So when I looked at being an actuary, and sorry, let me digress a bit. Before being an actuary, I'd always had the mindset that if I go to university, I'm not going to study for a career. What I mean by that is I'm not going to say I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or study or an accountant. I'm going to pick subjects I love. I'm going to
Hmm.
study what I love and see what comes of it. So not necessarily limiting myself to anything. And I love maths. I loved economics, so I studied maths and economics. And when I started getting to understand what an actuary is, making financial sense of the future, the technical aspects, the statistical aspect, also mixed with the economic aspect, I just sort of fell in love with the course. So even from that year off, before I went to university, I said, okay, this is really what I want to do. So that's where the love for being an actuary came from.
So there is the love came because you had an experience a year off and you met people, right? Who
Yes, I
were,
had an experience just getting to understand the profession. And then,
and that
yes,
was
so
what did that for you.
yeah, that introduced me to it. And it sort of tied in as well to the subjects I loved.
So
It was very
it just worked
mathematical, very
well.
statistical. And then I heard that, oh, it was really hard to do. So I'm thinking, if it's really hard to do, and then not too many people will be able to do it. So, yes, this is really, this is the path for me.
Okay, but then you then had a look at being an investment banker. What
Well, I
triggered that?
when you finish or when you're in university and it's like the rock star profession. Being an
Hmm.
investment banker, all the money, everybody's there. It's really dynamic. So, I mean, that's sort of the environment you're in. And also, I did one of my summer jobs. Was it an investment bank?
Ah, okay.
So then maybe you start getting a bit distracted. So after uni, I started applying to so many. At one point, I had a whole should I say folder about 100 or 150 places that I'd applied to that I just got no, 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 no for whatever reason. Every single investment bank, every single bank. Even though I'd done a summer internship at one of the top investment banks, it was just no investment banking. Okay, maybe accounting. And it just at some point I just said, I'm just going to focus on on applying for to be an actuary,
Wow.
and then I
Wow.
got my
You know what? I'm going to stay on this question of getting the nose, right? And you said for at a point you counted up to 100 places where you had applied to and you got
yeah
a
I
no.
applied to loads of places. Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you get to number 10 and still apply for number 11? How do you get to 20 and then still go for 21? How do you get to 30? And I'm
Honestly,
asking
it's
this, sorry, I'm
yeah,
asking this
it's
so that you can help people who are watching, right, see that any delays or any issues, of that nature, rejections, it's not the end of the road, it's not the end of the world, and again, it's common, so it's not as if, how they say, village people, or we say,
no, there's no
that.
such thing. Well, okay, I shouldn't say there's no such thing. I think for me, it's always the knowledge that you're not a failure because you fail. You're a failure
Mm,
because you give up.
please, can you
So
say it
it's
louder for those at the back?
at the back. I said you're not a failure because you fail. You're a failure because you give up. So there is no giving up. It's going to happen. It's just you're going to have to persevere a bit more than maybe the next person. Some people finish, they have a job waiting for them. Some people get it with the first place they apply for. Some of us have to um, maybe send 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 applications. But eventually, you'll get your opportunity. I think my first role was a company called Canada Life. And the salary wasn't much. I think what I was paying to get to work was slightly more than what I was earning. But for me, I always had the notion that it's easier to get a job when you're in a job. So
Mm,
sometimes it doesn't really matter if you're starting off a bit, earning a bit lower, so long as you're clear in terms of where you're going. And I only stayed in Canada Life. Okay, I don't know if this is good or bad for about 2 or 3 months because I was still applying. But I knew that companies find you more attractive when you're doing something.
Hmm.
So I took that role, got that experience, moved very quickly to Egg. At that time, it was an internet bank owned by Prudential, and then from there, just went passed a few exams and just took it from there.
Hmm. I like what you've shared around the fact that you are not a failure because you failed, but because you gave up. So the yardstick for defining failure is not a rejection
No,
or a
not at
poor
all.
outing. It is when you say, I'm not doing again, I'm done, I'm tired, I give up. That's such a beautiful reframing. And I just want to, sit into it a little bit and just call it out for anyone who is watching to say, did you hear that? Literally just calling it out, say, did you hear that? That you may be getting rejections now. It may look like, oh, you're applying, it's when you give up. It's at the point when you give up. What do you think turned the tide, or what do you think helped you secure that first job? Do you do anything differently? What was that transition space of? And I'm asking because, again, in our
Mm,
world today, there is a lot of that pressure for, people are looking for jobs. They may not be in the
yeah.
kind of job they want, so I want us to just, like I said, these conversations are usually just me listening to your story and just trying to dig a bit more and unpack so people can learn lessons. So that's why I
Mm,
like you to share, because that's the only way when you share, I just go there, and that place is what will speak to somebody that is watching, right? So please
yeah.
help us talk about that a bit.
I think what turns the tide. How do I put this? I think for me, faith is very important. Even
Mm,
from a very young age, my faith was very central to everything I did. Now, you know that scripture that says in Joshua, it says there are a few things before, but it says, "Then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall have
mhm,
good success." So I always viewed, and I think I'd always known that the way I viewed that scripture is basically it says, let these the book of the law not depart from your mouth, but make sure
mhm,
you meditate upon it. So there's a principle in there in that if you carry on doing the right things consistently over and over again, whether it's applying, whether it's studying, whether it's being diligent, whether it's being faithful, whether it's executing, there's a place for you there. You will make your way prosperous. Basically,
mm,
you'll open yourself up. You'll develop character traits that make you attractive, and then you will have good success. Now, having good success, again, this is how I see it. Making my way prosperous is up to me. But sometimes times and chances are up to God. So God will always give you that opportunity to have good success. So that's like a gift. But it's based on the fact that you have been doing the right things consistently and diligently. And life will always throw you opportunities to give up. It will always give you suggestions to, I don't know, faint or just step back. But so long as you're consistent, in anything, whether good or bad, sorry, but if so long as you're consistent, you will get those fruits. So I knew the opportunity would come. I mean, my faith has always told me that the opportunity would come. Of course, there are periods where you say, oh, why am I the one getting all these rejections? I mean, that's natural, that's human. But you work through those periods. And once the opportunity came, it wasn't a disdain. It wasn't that, oh, investment banking friends are earning all this and I'm earning this. It was just, no, this is the opportunity. And now what are you going to do with it? But again, not being unwise and assuming because I have this opportunity, I need to, you still know what your focus is. Yes, this is where I'm starting, but this is not where I'm ending. So I was still
mm.
applying. I was still, because I hadn't reached where I was going. So
I
it's,
like that. I like that. This is where I'm starting, but I'm very clear this is not where I'm ending. No, I'm very clear. And it's the opportunity comes and we grab it. See, we're still in the early stage of your career. We haven't even
yes, we
shifted.
are.
And I just feel like I should still stay there just a little bit more, please. So it's natural to be sad about the rejection. So that's something for someone to learn to say, hey, being sad doesn't mean that you are bad or no. It just means that that is life and you're experiencing life and want it. But there's a sentence you made. You said once the opportunity came, you grabbed it and focused on it. You were not
Mm.
saying to yourself, oh, I'm comparing myself to others and all of that, right? And it's was that easy for you to do in terms of not comparing yourself to others who are earning more? What did you do to
I think
help you not focus on that?
again, maybe perhaps because of the sort of character I have, and also it's good to have a thankful heart.
Hmm.
So even in the little, you're grateful. Even in the because some people send off applications and don't even get responses. So even in the no, at least thank you. Maybe I can call you and find out why you're telling me no. You might answer me, but find a reason to be thankful. It's important to maintain that attitude in that season. So when the opportunity comes and you grab it, you're grabbing it with a thankful heart. Always still, like I keep saying this, always still with the focus of where you're going. So you're not going to get to the first rung and just settle and say, ah, okay, yeah, all right. You know you've just started. So the journey has just begun, but it has begun.
Now I'm conflicted. Should I move forward past this entry level point or should I
Yes.
still stay there? I'm conflicted. And the reason I'm conflicted is this. You said, I mean, the way I framed it here in my notes, because I'm taking notes as you're speaking, is a thankful heart is critical to stopping comparison, right?
Mm,
That's how I've taken it. Now, and then even in the little, you stay grateful. And you talked about the fact that, okay, I applied and I got a no, because I even got a response. Let me even hold that one. Can you share with us, I mean, if you can, or just illustrate to us along your journey? So if we move past the point of your entry, level till date, if there are one or two examples you can share with us of things that happened, in your career journey that didn't make any sense for you to be grateful for. We talked about several applications,
yeah.
and rejection, and then you saying, "Hey, I'm not giving up." But if as you progressed further in your career, if you can share with us or illustrate for us how this thankfulness, this heart of gratitude has mattered for
Mm.
your career. Yes.
I think okay, at the start, of course, thankfulness and gratitude is a character trait. It's not one off in just one area of your life. It's sort of it's who you are. Certainly as a Christian, but as I developed through my career, even as I passed exams, and as I moved from one role to another, I mean, I think like I always said Oh, I always say I don't think I got while I was in the UK, and I might be wrong. I can't remember getting a promotion, but I think I changed jobs 5 or 6 times, and every time that was in itself a promotion. So God was clearly guiding me through my exams, taking me through various companies. Even when I stopped being an actuary and went to be to the rating agency, that was another dimension in terms of experience. So it started off with gratitude, and then you saw the little things that God did. So fast forward, coming to Nigeria, which in itself, and how do I now for me coming to Nigeria was a very deeply spiritual experience because okay I might not have known it then, but making that sort of move you really need to spiritually prepare, and it was a season where I think the phrases I used were give, fast, believe, pray, keep yourself pure. Those things sort of channeled that move. There was a song when I was about to make the move, and also this is weird, I think that there was also a season of giving, sacrificial giving
Hmm.
before the door opened. So this door now opened. I came home, an amazing company, Continental Re, working with a phenomenal team in terms of executives. I was there for 7 years. I started as an AGM, moved to a DGM, and then a GM. Then I became the group chief risk officer and chief actuary, and then I was promoted to being the group executive director. So this was at the time when my mentor was sort of transitioning; he was retiring, and then a month after, because I remember I was called to the board to say, "Oh, welcome on the board, you know," and then a week or two after, I was actually told that basically I'd have to leave. So that for me was
Eh?
was one of those experiences, and the reason was NYSC. When I came back, I didn't have NYSC, so
It's not true.
no, that was it. That was the reason why. And then at that
Ah, ah,
time, so but it was even in that. I mean, I remember quite clearly, even speaking to Pastor K. He said, "Don't fight, just worship." I mean, that's all he told me. That's all, Pastor K. So even in that season, I was just grateful. Even after they called me and I had to leave, I made sure I called all the board members and just thanked them for the opportunity. And then I left, and then I went to do NYSC because I had a clear focus. I knew I was going to stay in Nigeria. There was no this is where I am, and if that's the obstacle, let's take it away. So I went off. I did NYC, went to Anambra State. Again, another wonderful experience. I've never been to the East. So again, that's what I'm saying. Everything, there are reasons to be thankful. So went through those 9 months. In the midst of that, while wondering, okay, what am I going to do? Finances, I got a call from someone that I had worked with. And this is how God works. And the person said, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, just go and go and write your own job description, basically. So again, this was like 6, 7 months down the line. So you could already see God moving. But you need to maintain that grateful heart. Regardless, that is non-negotiable. Because you know there's something that God is doing. Looking back at it now, given where I am, and I'm really excited with where I am, nothing would have made me leave Continental. Nothing. Not God's voice, not an angel. Not, because I love the company, I love the people I had back. So I would not have heard, even if it was God's will for me to leave. So maybe I'm not saying it is, I don't know, but maybe that's God's way of saying, look, this your time is up. And if I told you, okay, step back and do this, you say, get you behind me, Satan. You would not, I would just not have listened. So that was the journey I went. Worked with Wire Consulting, moved to be an ED in Tangerine, and all these things prepared me for where I am now. With one of the
wow.
most, should I say, accomplished individuals in our industry who's done it for 30 years, somebody who I'd always looked up to and wanted to work with, Mr. Wole. So again, I have nothing but gratitude. It's now looking back, yes, but even then, you knew you had to maintain that heart of gratitude even while everything was going on. It's yeah,
Hey,
very interesting.
please, this type of story is the real definition that people will say is village people. Why would I have worked for how many years? 20 years and be told go and do NYSC? Why didn't
I
anybody tell me when I was coming into Nigeria that I would have to do it? Why didn't they tell me that I should apply for exemption? What as my goodness?
well, it's
So many questions to be asked. But I
so
really
many,
like,
but
wow. You know, Tim, this is really interesting, and this is why I really personally enjoy C-Suite Speaks. I tell people that I started doing this to share stories of leaders, but I end up being the first beneficiary, learning from people's stories. I have come on live on C-Suite Speaks and gotten answers to questions that I got aware of while talking to the person. I've gotten answers to questions that I had just on my own, and someone says something, I'm like, oh, that's the answer to that thing you were thinking about. This is the answer. So it's really powerful to hear this, how you rise to that point and something that looks like a step back, and turns out that hey, because you said something that you don't think, even if God had put up a signpost, you
you
know,
know, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have seen it. I would not have seen it because the vision was okay, group executive director, and then of course ultimately one day go and be group MD of. But I
Mhm.
mean that would have been so. It can't be God telling me that I should. That there's no way. So, but even now with all the restructuring that has happened in the company I was at, it's much better where I am. So it's everything happens, and it's important to understand that no matter what, God is in control. You are His. So all that scripture that says all things
Mm.
work together for your good. Sometimes you don't like it,
Mhm.
but you need to always be able to submit to the sovereignty of God and just maintain that focus and that gratitude.
What year was this?
This was 2021, just after
2020.
COVID. Yeah, it was
Mm.
2021, April 2021. And then,
Mm.
so I went, I think I didn't work again till about September, October 2021. So it was, yeah, it was April 2021.
Interesting, because I mean, about my exit from KPMG, and
Mm.
at the point when I was leaving, many people thought doesn't make any sense. You are a director. It's time for you to, you've built the business. Literally, it's time for you
Mm.
to now enjoy the, get into partnership. Just wait a
Yeah.
bit. But I knew that God was saying it's time to go. Like, go now. And I'm like, it wasn't even a case of, oh, I have built something that I'm earning sufficiently from. You know how they say, plan your exit, make sure that you are
Mm-hmm.
making the
Mm-hmm.
money, and that English. I didn't.
Yeah.
It was just so clear that go, and the pressure, the visits, the calls, the different from different angles. And I look now, this is 15, 16 months on, and I am grateful, right? So when you said this, I'm like, hey, now wow, this is God's direction. It comes in different shapes and sizes.
Mm-hmm. At least you listened. You would have listened. He knew I wasn't going to listen.
No,
Maybe
I
I'll
think
stop.
so. I was also I was triggered, and even my friends that know me, Mark, Pastor, they always say you just didn't want to go anyway. I was triggered.
Mm.
I was triggered, and I say to people that, in fact, recently Mark was saying to me that God had to force you out. You don't go. That
Mm.
it was that trigger that made me say, okay, it's time.
Because
It's
it's
time.
hard.
So
I think
that's
as humans, God understands us as humans. You get to a certain level, you've
yes.
built something, you've invested, so He knows it's going to be with the best will in the world. There are very few people who will hear and say, "Oh no, no, God is telling me to step away from where." I'm not stepping away from anywhere. This is,
Step away.
uh,
It's even a case of nobody's asking you to go. So why are you going? That's
mm,
that's what happened for me. It was a case of
exactly.
they didn't say you should go. Yes, what you wanted did not come when you wanted it to happen. Promotion did not come at that
Mm,
point in time. But nobody's saying you will not be promoted. We're even assuring you up front
mm-hmm,
that you will be, and you are still saying
mm,
no. Okay, where are you going to? I'm not taking another job. I'm going
you don't
first.
know.
How can you be going first? Stay and let us have a okay. Go and do
That one,
something
nobody
else.
will believe she has another offer. Somebody has given them
Honestly,
that.
people,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, people did not, people, I don't even think it's a case of did not. I think it's a case of do not believe that
Mm,
you had built this thing. In fact, in the 3 years before I left, like I told you, I had 3x the business. So it didn't make any sense to say you are leaving. There is no other job you are going to. Is it really true that you're not going to any other job? Then I now started
mm,
saying, oh, I want to go and build this happy employee thing. And they were like, we're already building it now. Who is stopping you from building it?
Nobody is
Stay
from
here and be
yeah.
So it's really, and maybe that's the shift we need to have in this conversation, right? Around times and seasons and knowing, you
Mm,
know, when it's time for a shift. Do you think that before this thing happened, you were kind of, and I'm enjoying this conversation absolutely because we are navigating very interestingly. I don't know how it's just, I'm absolutely enjoying this. So thank you, right? And I know people are enjoying it as well. Were there signs before that time, right, that made you, or when you look back now in hindsight, are there things you feel like that were preparing you for this to happen? Are there things that you felt were signs or things that were happening? Talk about,
not at
reflection.
all. Even with the only sign because this was the transition. Dr. Femi was the GMD, Lawrence Nazare was the GD, I was the group chief actuary. So in my mind, a natural transition when Femi retires, Lawrence will be the GMD, I'll be the GD. So that was there were no signs, and it happened. So it was as it was supposed to be. Okay, there was an interview process, and but no, I wouldn't say there was signs. I wasn't expect. Maybe there were signs, but I didn't see them. Maybe, and I haven't really gone back to sit down and reflect too much. But I don't recall any signs until it happened. Even as I was thinking, I thought, okay, maybe it will be reversed. Maybe this is a mistake, all the way up to the very end.
Hmm. Interesting.
Uh,
And you know why I like the way you answered this is to also let people know that our journeys are very unique and different.
mm-hmm.
Our journeys are so unique to us. We two people can be insurance industry executives, but their route to get there completely personalized, completely
Absolutely.
unique to them. As in, you
Mm-hmm.
can't copy and paste. Like
Yeah.
I think my husband sometimes there's no way you can orchestrate this one because you're looking back and you're saying, even if God was flashing the signs, I wouldn't have heard. So he needed to navigate me.
Mm,
And even now you're saying, even when you reflect,
yeah,
you don't remember.
I don't remember. Maybe there were, but I don't remember any signs. Because I mean, when you love where you are, you love the people you're working with. You have this clear vision, and I mean, Continental then was wonderful. I love Africa, so I was traveling across Africa. We have offices, North Africa, Southern Africa, East Africa, Francophone, everywhere. So it was perfect. It was exactly. I love Africans. I love Africa. It was what I wanted to do. The industry I wanted. So why would God? What does God mean that? No. So there's no way. But no, it's yeah.
Oh my
That
goodness.
is something else.
This is really interesting. I'm grateful that you're sharing this just to wake anybody up who is watching to say sometimes some things will happen to you that blindside you completely,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not against the omnipotence of God and omniscience of God, if you get what I mean. Like his wise counsel can still walk through those blind sides, those things that completely shock
Absolutely.
you and make you feel like, God, were you there? Because I remember that when I heard the news, I wasn't going to. I was like, well, God, you knew this thing. Now, why didn't you?
Why didn't you
Ah,
just tell me? Or hint me.
why didn't you even work it out? You could have worked it out for it to happen. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so for me, it's just I don't know if anyone watching, it's that like I said, the conversation is really going in a very interesting direction. It's feeling like something has happened to you in your career journey that makes you question, but I've given so much. That makes you question, but I've done so much. I've invested in this. Why is this happening? What is going on?
Yeah.
Is
You
to
know that
relax.
scripture that says the hearts of kings are in the hands of God. I mean, God. So if God is not moving them, they're not supposed to be moved. Just accept it.
Hmm.
He has something else planned.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's
That's so beautiful, and it takes me back to where we were before at the beginning. That the hearts of kings are in the hand of God. So if He's not moving them, then He has something He's planning.
mm,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think it's just to say to anyone watching, relax, right? If your faith is in Jesus and you are paying attention to what he's saying to you. And I think for me, it's also like, Pastor K would say that GPS, even when you think you've missed it, he
mm,
can recalibrate. He can
absolutely.
recalibrate and bring you right back. And that's just
Yeah.
for me, I had kind of known that a time was going to come that I was going to have to leave. I knew. I can't say that I did not know. Oh, yes,
Mm,
I did know. I remember that within my first 3 years or thereabouts of working, the work I did was bringing me before kings, literally in across industries. And I kept on saying, these connections are not just for this work I'm doing for KPMG. I just kept on feeling it's not just about this
mm,
work. When I wrote my first book and it came out in 2017, I thought, oh, it's a children's book. Okay, God wanted me to meet all these people so that they can, use this as a means of ministry XYZ. But as I have navigated further away and began to leverage those relationships to even grow the business as a director. It
Mm.
then became okay. And then as I've left now, it then became, oh, these are now open doors. When I
Yeah.
launched C Suite Speaks, it became, you see, you have people who you can reach out to easily.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting that if we just step back and see that God has seen the end and is
Mm.
bringing us through a process, that's just very, very comforting to see. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, so let me step back a bit, right,
Mm.
to some of the beginning portion, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about knowing that deciding to be an actuary was going to be years and years of exams and failing, and still going ahead to say, I want to do this thing. Share with us the experience around failing exams, picking yourself up, what helped you, to keep at it. And looking back, was it worth staying that course?
Oh, let me answer the final question first. Absolutely. It's I love, first of all, I love the insurance industry. And I love the actuarial profession. So most definitely it was worth. There were times where I thought, okay, I will never be an actuary. These exams are crazy. There. But no, it was absolutely worth it. And I guess for me, in terms of the exams, I always viewed, maybe weirdly, I always viewed exams like they made me feel like a gladiator, going into the ring. It's just me and this exam paper. But and then even in the failings, I think the trick, or what I did was, it's nice to get momentum. The worst thing you can do when you're starting off with any series of exams is start off with consistent failing. No matter, I mean, you're human, so that knocks you back. So it's good to try as much as you can to select courses that you know that that you can pass. Let me put it that way. Courses that are easier. So that's what I did. Look through the syllabus. I think there's an economics module. There are a few papers. So the first few papers you did, you're passing. So immediately that gives you a jolt. Okay, I can do this. And then from there, of course, as years go by, there are certain papers you have to do once, twice, three times, four times. But so long as you have that clear focus, and the thing about actuarial exams, I'm not sure about other exams, and this is the interesting thing: you cannot fit the exams around your life. It doesn't
Hmm.
work. The exams are your life. You fit everything else around the exams. I mean, there will be a season in your life where this is priority. Of course, there's the exams, there's family, and then there's faith, and then there was church and serving. But outside of that, there are no distractions. Because once I pass these exams, I have time to do anything I want to do. But for those 5, 6, 7 years, I don't fit the exams around my life. I don't say, okay, I have to do this and this, so when can I study? I am studying. That is who I am. I study. That is my life. And then around that, you can fit everything else in. And then it will surprise you. 5, 6, 7 years goes, and then you're qualified. And once you are, no one can take that from you.
So I like what you just talked about, the question of seasons, right? The question of seasons, understanding that something is happening and happening to you for a season.
Mm.
Now I'm going to veer off, and this is how it just came to me as we begin to get to the hour mark. Right? I'm going to veer off this question of seasons and parenting, right? Uh, I would like to talk about seasons parent. I've been a parent for a long time, right? Seasons parenting and work. Okay, share with us your experience. What you would say to younger Abayomi about seasons combining work, parenting, studying.
I think for me, it's really understanding the priorities. Family first. Even that's how it's all. Okay, wait. I digress. God first. That is your anchor. That is your central point. But when it comes to work, I always even tell the people I work with, you guys, family first. If anything happens to you, I'll replace you. That's just the honest truth. So let's not. As much I love my work colleagues, but as an institution, as an organization, if
Mm-hmm.
anything happens to you, we will move on.
Hmm.
And we'll get someone else and the work will go on. So you must prioritize your family. I don't even let them joke with their family time or their children or spending that quality time because you can't buy it back. So and the
Hmm.
funny thing is the more you take care of that, the more productive you are at work,
Hmm.
which
Interesting. So the
is
more you
you're a
take
more
care of
balanced.
family.
Yeah, you're a more balanced person. You're more fulfilled all around. So yes, very demanding at work. Don't miss deadlines. If you need to stay till midnight, we will, but you still understand that balance and that priority. Because if you're taking care of the family, then the family sort of understands those periods where you have to then give more to work. So, so I
So
think
I'm
that's
staying
always
here.
been important.
I'm going to stay on this part. As a Christian father,
Mm.
right? um Share with us maybe tips or what you've tried and what worked for you, in transferring your faith, because you said that at a young age your faith was critical. So even just coming out of uni, that you're having a grounding in your faith made a world of difference to how your career shaped out, right? So can you speak to us a little bit about your ability to, or what tips or tricks or strategies you use to help you, ensure your faith was transferred or is being transferred to your children?
I think, first of all, children, you must absolutely say the right things, encourage the study of the word, prayer time. I mean, all that is vital. But children really are watchers. They watch you, they soak it in, and they reproduce without even knowing it. And they copy what you do instinctively. So that's why you need to be very, very deliberate in terms of what you say and what you do around them. First of all, as a couple, in terms of what you do, what you expose them to, what you even let them see, and then certainly individually as a father, how um, obviously you make God a priority, not indirectly. I mean, sometimes you have to intentionally make it obvious that this is a priority. These landmarks are given, serving in God's house, even things like service. Just make things obvious to them so that without them even knowing, they start instinctively saying, okay, these are non-negotiables.
Hmm.
I think that is very, very important. The model that you set is very important. It's not always very easy, but it's really critical because children
Hmm.
will remember a lot more of the moments you spend together, the experiences you have, and those little things they soak up from you. So just be intentional with time spent as well um, with the children. I think that's key.
Okay. Okay, I like that. Making the non-negotiables very obvious, right? So there's no
Yeah,
ambiguity as to the fact that this is who we are, this is who God is to us, and this is how we service that relationship, and making sure that that's very clear, very clear to
absolutely.
them. Like, okay.
So when you say something like God first, I mean, it seems like a very simple thing, but it should become a non negotiable in every single area, in the small things and in the big things. It should become something that goes into their psyche. So even when they're with their friends having conversations, God first
Hmm.
in every area.
In every area. Okay. All right. Um, Someone has a question, and I'll before I come back to my own question.
Oh,
Someone
really?
asked.
We're taking questions? Ooh.
I mean, again, if you think it's not something that should be shared in a public forum, is fine because this is very interesting. The person says, "I know we are discussing this now from the spiritual angle, referring to the question of NYC, and all of that. What was your conversation with HR like?
What,
Because the
when
person,
before I started or
in terms of the exits, saying you had to leave, because the person feels that HR should have known and let you know that NYSC was important, XYZ?
Okay.
Again, that's a very serious, interesting question.
No, no, it's interesting. I think at that point, and this is where spiritual maturity and professional maturity also come in play. When they're conflicting, and I'm sure when as people move up in organizations, you start to understand that it's not about your technical skills. I mean, that's a given. We've gone way past the technical skills. Sometimes there's certain interests or there's certain groups and certain boards just want to go in a certain direction. So once that is clear, it's not really an issue of HR should have said or HR should not have said. Maybe if it was a different board, it wouldn't have been an issue. You stay, you do your 1 year NYC, and you carry on. I mean, that's not so. So you need to be able to read the circumstances as well. And I think that's partly why Pastor said, "Don't fight, just worship." So to the point of, did HR know? Probably. I mean, even when I was coming in, because I was coming in from the UK, maybe they thought it could be an expat quota, but this was 7 years down the line, so a lot of things had changed. I'm sure if we had thought about it 2 years, I think it might have come up once before, and maybe I didn't take it seriously. Who knows why these things happen? But I think at that level, when the board is making a decision in terms of a direction, then it's a bit beyond HR.
Thank you. I like how you answer. I like how you answer that. So every decision is not black and white. You need to be able to read the
No,
room and understand. It's not just
absolutely.
about, oh, this is what they said or did not say. You have to be very, very intentional, right?
And then you also have to understand that um, sometimes you lose a battle to win a war. There are individuals in that room, you meet them again in the industry. So
100%, I get
you
that.
don't necessarily want to pick fights with everyone, even if you're right. So,
100%.
and then there's always a
100%.
way to leave. Just make sure you negotiate properly, because when you're leaving in that way, sometimes your bargaining power is slightly stronger. So you just have those conversations and you pick yourself up and you go again.
I like that. Sometimes you lose a battle to win a war because things do come full circle, right? The chicken can lay the egg somewhere else, so you need to be very intentional about exits, right? And I think that that's a very important point for anyone listening to note. The fact that you have to exit a place, even if you feel hurt and offended, or triggered or whatever it is, you need to be intentional about how you live, right? Because the world is so small, and with technology is shrunken more and keeps shrinking. One door, the next door you may need to walk through the window of that place to get to that door. So you need to be very. I have had people call me and say, "Oh, this person worked with you. How far?" And I've had someone say to me, the person who served with me NYSC, maybe before NYSC 6 months, NYSC another 12 months, maybe 18 months, and then got a role in a government agency. And then next thing comes to me to say, oh, that this somebody called me from HR that, oh, they saw in my profile that I worked with you. So they want to now move me from operations to HR. And that's what he wanted. So you need to be very intentional about how you close doors when you are exiting. It's so
Absolutely.
important. There's a skill around that. There's a heart posture as well around that, especially when you understand the sovereignty of God, right? I think the heart posture is so important. I feel like many career people are so wounded, they are carrying around that hurt, and I think
Absolutely.
it limits them. I think so. I don't know if it's my mind, but I think it's limiting.
It
If
is. And sometimes you're absolutely right to feel how you feel, because a lot of times you haven't done anything wrong. You might even have excelled. You've contributed significantly. But the truth is, if I've excelled in one place and contributed significantly, I can do it somewhere else. And that's really the honest truth. If I'm that good, then I'll reproduce it. It's the same God that's going to take me to the next place.
honestly, that's it. That's really it. I can redo this and I can reproduce it. I really that's something which speaks to us being able to understand that when we are working with God. We are not just working on our own. And if you understand
Mm-hmm.
that, it shapes how you show up at work. The statement you made earlier, as we begin to wrap up, that I want us to, I think, end on that note, right? Or maybe one more question, but let's see. And I wrote it in caps, all caps. My job is to make my boss's life easier.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
I
So
mean, if I'm
practical
given,
tips, two, three things, and across levels. So you said you've always believed this. So from
always,
entry
yes.
level to middle level to now as executive level, what does this mean?
I think if I'm given a portfolio, no matter how small, no matter how big, firstly, I will fully understand what the objectives of my boss are or objectives of the organization. I'll know exactly what we're trying to do, my role there, and my focus is on making sure I execute. And I don't go to my boss with conversations without bringing something to the table. And when I say that, this is what I mean. I wouldn't go to my boss and say, "Oh, what do I do about this?" I would go to my boss and say, this is what I plan to do. This is what I suggest. Which one do you think we should do, or which way do you think we? So you're bringing something to the table of the conversation, and you're making his life so much easier. It's easier when you have to choose between options than when you have to start thinking from first principles and walking someone through. So for me, that's how it's always been. I've always been focused on executing. So if I'm in a role, whoever I'm reporting to knows they don't have to think much about this role. We will execute on the objectives, and whether it's the people within that role, we'll make sure we take care of the people, we'll develop them, we'll strengthen them, the team will function well, and the objectives will be met. So for me, that's really because that's ultimately what whoever you're reporting to wants. Because if you do well, they look good.
I like how you started with understanding my boss's objectives or the organization's objectives. So for me, that's a mind shift that goes beyond this is my title, this is my JD to saying step back, what are we building here? What is important? What is really, really important beyond what is written, right? What is really important? I'd like you to share tips on communicating with your manager, that what just share one or two tips on how to effectively communicate with your manager.
I think sometimes I know they say you have to manage your manager as well,
Hmm.
um, but you need to also understand the language of management. A manager doesn't want you to speak in problems. He wants you to speak in solutions. I don't, especially now with where I am, I don't want you to come and speak in a. I mean, people do it and they do it regularly. And as a leader, you need to sit them down and explain to them. But the best employees are those who speak in solutions, well thought out, articulated solutions that you know are multidimensional, maybe not even just for your own department. The more you can speak in solutions, the further you'll go.
Wow, this one is a billboard though. The more you can speak in solutions, the farther you go. Don't speak problems, speak in solutions. This is really, really, it's getting me thinking, right? That when I'm speaking, am I speaking solutions or am I just raising issues? Hmm.
Because
And
most of
that's
the
something
times
that
we
is
all know the
important.
issues.
Hmm.
A lot
It's
of, but
important for people
most of
to,
the times.
yeah, to really think about this. Are you speaking in solutions? I mean, the way I say it is that when there's a problem, tell them what you've thought about. But for me, what I'm hearing differently is speaking in solutions. I don't know, it's just hitting me like it's giving language to it, if you get what I mean, right? Speaking in
Mm,
solutions, speaking in contributions. What am I adding to this? And how am
yeah.
I making this lighter? That's just so important. Finally, before we leave, you spoke. Oh, is it finally? There are two things I want to touch on before we leave. One is on money wisdom for employees. So please, I want you to share something around that. You've earned a salary consistently for decades. How have you made it work for you? Are there things you wish you had done differently? Are there things you wish? Just share a few. and then I'll ask the final question and we'll call it an evening.
Money wisdom for employee. Again, and this is the funny and the weird thing. Um, I always go back to my faith, and I know it's a weird thing when you try and juxtapose the Christian faith and living in the kingdom and in the real world, because sometimes the systems are different. Because in the world system, um, you earn and you invest and it grows. In in the system of the kingdom, yes, you also, of course, you're trading your talent, but there's such a massive place for giving, and giving is how you grow. That's the weird thing with the kingdom. You can't grow, whether it's financially, whether it's in terms of relationships, without giving. That's just how it is. And for me, all through my career, I don't joke with my giving. That's the first thing. There again, those non-negotiables. There's certain things you don't play with. I don't play with my tithing. I don't play with my giving, and not just necessarily giving in church. Just having a heart of giving, whether it's with your teams, whether it's those around you. Don't miss people's birthdays. Don't miss um, people who are getting married, especially in your teams. Don't miss people who are giving. But find a reason and opportunity to give for everyone around you. That's that again is the way of the kingdoms. And once you've done that, in terms of pure financial principles, I mean, uh, how do I put this? We have the standard. You need to, and sometimes it's difficult, especially when you're a young family and
Mm,
when you have those expenses. Sometimes it can be challenging making sure what's coming in meets what's going out. But I think one discipline you have to have is that of saving. You must, there must be a disciplined way between, I guess, both of you as a couple of setting something aside. And there might be seasons in your life where you might not quite be able to do that,
mhm.
but that should only be a season. That should now become the norm. Because I think as a Christian, you will be blessed. You're not going to stay in the same place forever. It's just not going to happen. And as you grow, don't immediately grow your expenses with your income. I think that's one thing you need to learn, especially when you get a promotion. There's a tendency to move your expenses with your promotion. And we've all done that. It's like I have been planning how I will
Ah,
spend that extra that comes in. So sometimes if you can discipline yourself to maintain your current spending level
mm,
on your next level, just for a season, that gives you a bit of leeway, gives you some extra income. It's not easy. You have to be intentional because I guarantee you, as soon as you get that promotion, you have planned for every penny that's coming in. It's already
ah,
gone. But sometimes it's nice to have that breather and that discipline. And then that extra, you can then build it as a nest egg. Then it becomes easier.
mm, mm. Okay, thank you very much. As we wrap up, I want to ask around finally on faith, come back to faith again, talking about what are the things that have helped you to maintain, that relationship with God in terms of your faith. What are the things you've done over the years to just help you maintain
Mm.
relationship with God? Yes.
It's funny. I always like to say that let me make sure I phrase this properly. I accepted Christ as my savior, and I like to say this intentionally, as my savior when I was about 12.
Hmm.
But I didn't accept him as Lord and give him my life until I was about 24. But
Wow.
there's a difference. I accepted that he saved me. I mean, I was young. I think it was in Nigerian Navy back in those days. I was young. Yes, I accepted he was my savior. But looking back, I hadn't given him my life. My life was still my own. I was still doing what I wanted to do. But I remember clearly I mean, I'm not sure how many of you remember Dr. Miles Monroe of blessed memory. We had men's conference, which I went for, and he ministered something which just touched something in me. And there was one thing he said that all his life, every year, he reads the Bible. Every single year, because that's our life. That's really what we base everything we do, everything we are. That's what we base it on. So you need to know it. And the Bible is not the collective writing. It's not like Shakespeare where you can
Mm,
like Hamlet but not like Macbeth, or pick
mm,
one book and not pick the other. It's the word. It's singular. It's unique. So it is that whole everything in that word that you need to consume. So for me, that's really what I took from him. And so every year I really try to make sure I am consumed in the word, because it's the challenges you face in age. And I was thinking about it the other day. I actually thank God that I'm not young in this day and age, because the pressures, and honestly, the pressures and the challenges and all the things, I look at the children sometimes and I not that I feel sorry, but the things they have to go
it's
through, the
still
things they're exposed to, the things they're bombarded by, it's
mm,
so much pressure
it's a lot.
on so many sides, especially with tech and everything and
Mm-hmm.
all the exposure. So for me, it just means you need to be even more fortified by God's word.
Mm,
And that for me is key. That for me is central. And there can't be, even the older you get, and sometimes the higher up you get, the more difficult it is. Because when you're working your way up there, you're sort of consumed, so there are not that many distractions. The further up you go, the more opportunities you have to mess up. Let me put it that way. The
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
easier it is. So that's where you have to be even more guarded and even more grounded. So it's not as if when you become C-suite and you've made it, you become C-suite and you're now a target spiritually and physically. It's just
honestly.
so you need to be conscious and aware of that, and you need to know you need God. Should I say even? Of course, you needed Him all along, but you
Yeah,
need
but
Him even more then, because now there's so many others that are relying on your decisions, on what you say, on your contributions. So there's a lot more responsibility. So for me, that being consumed by God's word daily, it's fundamental.
wow. I'm happy I asked this question because I've gotten some answers in asking the question. To be very honest, I was recently getting a pull to say maybe I should go back, just go and buy a new hard copy Bible, and just start reading it instead of the e-Bible. And as you just started speaking about the importance of being consumed by the Word of God, I went back to the chat where I was asking the person to say, hey, how far? Hey, Bible, and I think that's the power of C-Suite Speaks for me personally. I like sharing the stories of people, but I also find that I get answers, like I said. So that's it. Thank you so much. You've really
Thank
shared
you.
a lot, a whole lot, a whole lot, to be honest, right? I have 2 full pages of notes. Um, taking, and we usually do a summary, which we will post
Okay.
maybe Friday or Monday or something, of the lessons learned from the C-Suite Speaks session. So we'll tag you on that as well. Thank you so much for giving your time to us this evening. I have
Thank
learned a lot.
you.
I have been challenged and inspired and encouraged, that I'm in good company, just knowing that okay, some transitions are not, oh, I'm done now. Thank you very much. Some transitions are forced, but
Yeah.
that asks which year, and that further down you still look back with gratitude through everything that happened. And so I'm encouraged 100%, by your story. So thank you very much for hanging with us this evening, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks everyone.
All right.